my sexy Dexter fans, and welcome to my weekly Dexter vlog review. My name is Emily Sophia, for those of you who do not know, and I am going to be breaking the crap down for you guys. Season 8, Episode 2, Every Silver Lining. So, let's cut to the quick of this. My cat is crying to go outside because she knows how I get when I vlog, and when I vlog, I go hard. And sometimes it's a little too much for people to handle, as well as animals, so I'm gonna go let her out real quick. So let me first just say, spoiler alert, because I will bear all in this review as always, and for those of you who don't know, I have partnerships with both Dexterdaily.com, so links to my written recap on Dexterdaily.com of this episode, link is below, as well as a link to a Every Silver Lining Dexter forum on flowdiscuss.com, which is a really cool website where you can go and chat with other Dexter fans and to have your own personalized experience of communicating with other fans about this show. So I encourage you to check out all the links below and just look it up and see what tickles your fancy and go splurge Dexter on the universe and just bleed it out, because this is the time. Okay, so we're in the spoiler zone, so strap yourselves in, put on your wetsuits, and let's dive in. So this episode, okay, I am so ridiculously freaking off the charts emotional, and I was not anticipating this. Like, I was having a really good time with this episode, and at the end, I was just like in tears for so many stupid reasons. Okay, for one thing, you guys, this was Michael C. Hall's very first time directing ever. You know, getting behind the cameras on the other side of the camera where you can't see his beautiful self. Well, he was there and he was doing some business, and I feel, you know, I feel really ignorant as to like what the role of director is supposed to imply, because I'm trying to figure out what all to attribute to Michael C. Hall, like as part of his creative vision, and I'm not really sure like what all, you know, the director actually does. I'm feeling kind of ignorant here, so you should fill me in the comments for those of you film people who know far more than I ever do. I only talk about TV, I don't do it. So but there was just the cinematography and just the story flow, the characters, the dialogue, the camera angles, and the way that everything just meshed. It was a well freaking oiled machine of death that ripped open my heart in 2,000 pieces, which, you're doing it right, Michael C. Hall. Okay, I'm just saying, you know, he's not only the perfect serial killer, but he is also, you know, he's up there in Hollywood, so golf clap to you. I mean, in fact, like, that I think that the world needs to, I don't know what I'm saying right now, but wow. So Michael C. Hall directed this episode, and I feel that in part helped contribute to the brilliance that was this episode, and it was so I honestly, it's early to call it, but the 8th season so far is probably my favorite season. I'm not gonna lie, you know, I was really amped up season 7, you know, the game was fresh, everything was just terrifying and awesome all at once, but this is a whole different kind of monster, okay? And I'm just racking my brains over here trying to figure out what it is that is making the season so marvelous and perfect and just well cast, and everything is so significant. Like, there's such a sense of like the old seasons, like we keep getting like those little lines and pieces of dialogue and the music and the setting and the sunshine and like everything that it really harkens back to the earlier days, and yet it's a fresh story and anything can go. And so I think it is so perfect in that way, because it's the perfect fusion of the nostalgia, what made us fall in love with the show in the first place, and the new volatile elements that keep us on the edge of our seats and the edge of our souls, ready to, you know, dangle over the abyss of undying emotion. So and also, my mother watched an entire episode of Dexter with me tonight. She freaking, in the last 10 minutes, I mean, okay, so she's like in the kitchen behind me, I'm watching TV in the main room, and she's like, you know, putzing around on her computer. She comes and she sits down next to me. She's straight up not denying, you know, she's watching, she's digging it, she's making jokes with us. Like, where did this come from? I'm so happy. Finally. I mean, And I was just like crying at things like my mom is watching my favorite show with me and Dexter is like freaking curled up in like Vogel's lap, like dying because he realizes like just how alone and sad and like actually feeling he is. It's nuts. It's just nuts. Everything about this episode was so above and beyond all my expectations, and I can completely understand why all the people on the East Coast, you know, I'm over here on the West Coast, Pacific end, you know, drowning out here. And I can understand why everyone was saying, you know, that it was so good and the ways that it was good. For one thing, let's talk about the way that they introduced this episode. You know, they were on like some old like 80s camera. You know, we see Harry Morgan, you know, he's all dressed up in his cop suit. He's coming in a very vulnerable place to Vogel seeking help. And we've never seen Harry like this. Honestly, you know, every time that we see him dealing with Dexter in a flashback, he's so harsh and cold and exacting, like, Dexter, this is the way that it is, you need to, you know, like, he just lays it out, and it looks like he has this whole design. But we see him in a place where he doesn't know what the hell to do. He's completely lost. We see him break down in tears. I mean, when have we ever seen that from Harry? We've never seen that. I mean, it's like this is a season of just unprecedented heights, like on the emotional charts for pretty much every character. And it's just been so astonishing to see, you know, even the old characters and their old situations fleshed out in new ways, like we saw with Harry in this video. And then, you know, the way it starts with just the video, and then we see that Dexter's watching it kind of in this sort of horror of, you know, okay, who am I actually? You know, where did I come from? He's having his whole past rewritten for him right in front of his eyes because, you know, what did Dexter know? And just the whole Vogel-Dexter dynamic was just, they have chemistry, okay? And I'm not just talking about the scene when like Masuka walks in on them when they're in Dexter's office, you know, trying to figure out who the killer was, you know, after Vogel kind of wrangles Dexter into the whole thing and makes him feel obligated to do her bidding as his spiritual mama. You know, he walks in, he's like, am I interrupting something here? Like, I knew that was gonna come. I did. And that was such like a season 1 thing. I mean, just getting more of that Masuka. Like, I love this episode because there was a lot of humor to it. We didn't have a lot of humor last season. Honestly, it was so stark and dark, and this season is a whole different kind of dark. But at the same time, it's been so entertaining so far because they're allowing those moments of lightness, the people who still don't know what's going on, like, to come forth and be genuinely funny. I mean, like, there's no need for them to apologize and sprinkle in, you know, that little humor along the way, because we need something to keep us going from heartbreak to heartbreak to heartbreak. So, I mean, it's like, this was just, today magnifique. Yeah, so let me just say, I loved every scene that they were in together. I mean, the music, they made it so creepy, and all the vibes. They always, like, cast these weird shadows on her. And just the whole Vogel's demeanor and the way that she talks and the way she's constantly trying to affirm to Dexter who he is, because she's just so pleased that she's finally got him in front of her. You know, her most successful endeavor, the fruit of her unorthodox labors. Can I just say, we got a little Miss Hannibelina Lecter over here, okay? I'm pretty sure that they're like cousins or something of some sort, and they just, you know, Hannibal's up in the north and she's down in the south, you know, they just kind of different weather preferences, so it's like, you know, you got Will and Hannibal, you've got Dexter and Vogel, okay? So we can talk about that in the comments below. I am like, what? I'm so emotionally, I am just titillated by this episode, okay? I don't know what it is. I am on the fritz, okay? So, yeah, Vogel's just so pleased that she has Dexter right in front of him, and she gets to be like, this is who you are, and she's kind of trying to teach him and affirm him, and thereby kind of manipulating him into being part of her process, and she's just so tickled with him, and yet so surprised to see, you know, how much he's unraveling at this point in his life. You know, she comes in at such a crazy time because he is more emotional than he's ever been. I mean, look at his face just at any given moment. You know, it's like when he's out on the crime scene, you know, I love that when they're investigating that crime scene, you know, with the guy, the duct tape, and the et cetera, you know, and then other brain surgeon murder dude, and you know, how Dexter's like, you know, Miami makes more corpses than sunburns. Like, that's season 1. I love it. And so, you know, it's like he's trying to be in his element, he's trying to keep his game up, but it's like what he confesses at the end to Vogel, and just that tender breaking moment, you know, vetting, stalking, killing people is what I do, and I can't even do that anymore. I've broken Debora, I've broken my purpose, that tie to humanity that somehow kept me in the balance of doing what I do, and it's just this whole crazy, like, it's this little apocalypse of the heart that's going on over here, okay? And, wow, I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm just kind of yelling about everything. I'm like trying to draw conclusions. And you know what? I finally get why the trailers are kind of trying to do this whole, ooh, is Deb a killer now thing? Because I was never really buying that in the midst of, you know, the build up to season 8. I was like, I really didn't see that. Everyone's like, oh, Deb's gonna be just like Dexter. And I just didn't really see that as plausible because, you know, we see the kind of blood that Debora bleeds, and yet at the same time, you know, she struck El Sapo first. She lunged at him like it actually looked like he was gonna try and stay out of her way and be like, just give me my stuff and I'm gonna go. Because, you know, he's paid, so it's not like Dexter who's taking out people who kill other people arguably for fun. You know, it was such a stunning scene to me because I didn't see that coming. You know, we saw Deb getting like kicked on the ground, so we think that, you know, she's just gonna protect herself. But really, she just went after this guy. She got beat up and roughed up and hurt, and she's, you know, it was just the perfect storm. And now she's in this place, like, her and Dexter's roles have almost completely reversed. Like, if you listen to the words that he says to her, the way he looks at her, like, you should have called me. I could have been there for you. Why won't you let me in? That was Debora. And so we have this crazy kind of, you know, they've intersected almost, and we see that Dexter is in this complete stupor. Like, his identity is in a complete state of crisis because he doesn't understand who Debora is, and if he doesn't know who Debora is, then who can he possibly be? How can he situate himself in any way? And just it just bleeds through his expression. It just, like Niagara Falls. You see it seeping through his pores. And Vogel seems to be really frustrated by that because it's like, you know, here's my perfect little beautiful psychopathic creation, and he's freaking out. You know, it's like the way that she tries to bring up Debora with Dexter. And she's like, you know, this is a problem for you, so it's a problem for me too. Kind of like, dude, get your act together. Why are you even acting this way? And how she's so surprised that Dexter wanted someone to talk to when Harry passed. And just like, you know, it's like, why hadn't you been there sooner? Like, you think that you're my mother, and yet this is what things look like for us. And it's just, you know, think about the relationship that Dexter had with his birth mother. And now with Vogel coming in, like, there are just the implications of this are huge. Like, writers, just go away because you are getting too talented, and you wised up from all the former wanderings in previous seasons, even those I've loved. But for real now, this is getting a little crazy. I'm just not comfortable with just how fabulous you are doing with this story. Okay. So now I get why they're really pushing this whole is Debora a killer thing, you know, and that scene just so beautifully shot where they're in the alleyway, Dexter and Debora trying to figure this out. We see Dexter, he's so bitter, like, you know, what if I wasn't here to cover your ass? Like, he's sick of just doing everything he possibly can to protect her and her not reciprocating in any way, not because he feels, you know, it's like, I scratch her back, you scratch mine. It's just that she is Deb. She is his sister. She is the person that he loves and has clung to all this time. And here she is completely erased and done over. And we can see that through Debora's interactions with Elway, who I love the way that Sean Patrick Flannery plays him. I just love it. I love these zesty new characters we have. I love, you know, Batista and Quinn are still going at it. Good guy Batista, he's just solid as crap. And, you know, we see what's also that I really liked is the Debora Quinn dynamic. I feel like people are gonna have kind of differing opinions, you know, about what they think about the fact that there's sort of a dynamic emerging or re-emerging between them. I feel like for the first time ever they really have chemistry. Like the relationship back in season 5 kind of popped out of nowhere. It was, you know, and so it's interesting that Debora is seeking him again, and she's trying, you know, she goes back to Miami Metro and she has that reunion with everyone. I was just dying. Like Masuka like runs up and he's like, yeah. It's like, it's not sexual harassment anymore, wink wink. She like throws him off, just like, like just pulls him off like, you know, like some gum wrapper in the wind got blown against her arm and she's kind of flicked it off. And then Batista comes and she sees Matthews, and there's just all this moments where just all the crucial parts and relationships touch. And then we see Dexter is just like, you're right there, like, let me help you. And then she's going to Quinn, and we remember when, you know, the whole shindig that Dexter had with Quinn. And so he's just, I love that, you know, they filmed the scene where Dexter is, you know, watching Debora in the interrogation room with Quinn, because he knows what's going on now. He found the evidence. He knows exactly what's going on in Debora's head. So, you know, he's just kind of secretly spying on them. I love when he bursts in, you know, family emergency mode. It's like, I love you, Dexter. You're finally, you know, it's like what Debora says, like, I wish you'd stop giving a shit, but it's like, he finally does, and it's so powerful to see that for me. This is like everything that I've been wanting since forever. So it's really just freaking incredible. And yeah, so really interesting that Debora and Quinn are kind of interacting, and you know, we see her, she kind of shows up on the periphery of the party over at Batista's place at Papa's, and Quinn and her kind of have that moment, and I think it was really cool. I think that, you know, I liked it. I like that dynamic, and you know, Jamie's she's kind of whining, she's kind of throwing a fit, and you know, what's there to be said about that? I just like that Quinn's actually getting a story, and he's like tied in somehow, and even little people like Angie Miller are finally getting lines, and just, it was such a good episode, you know. I was really concerned at first, you know, the fact that they had like someone pegged as like the potential murderer and all that stuff, and they were kind of going with that. And then they used that whole plot line and what happened in the end to expose the fact that Dexter is slipping in terms of what he's always done. And he's so impacted by the loss of Debora, and now so crazily in tune with his emotional needs, his needs for intimacy and understanding, that it's like all the wheels are coming off. And this is just so perfect. I mean, like, this, I wanted to see so much more of this last season, and yet I think it's now mature, you know, like a fine wine. We had to wait for this, to see Dexter in this place of desperation, and I am so excited for next week. I don't even know. I'm seriously in tears again. It's right there. What is wrong with me, guys? This is, no. And I swear, if any of you ask me again how I think Dexter's gonna end, I'll say no. Because I can't think about it now. I'm getting so, like, reinvested in this show that you are not allowed to bring that up with me. Because I will have problems with you if you do. I'm just saying, no. Case closed. So what did you guys think of this episode? Are you, like, as strung out on this crap as I am? Other fun things, I love the scene where, like, Quinn and Batista are interrogating the little old lady in the tea. And I kept joking, like, when she left the room, I thought she was gonna, like, come back and, like, try and kill them or something. And Quinn's got, like, his little teacup, and there's just so many little moments, and, you know, we kind of see, like, Debora's sass with Elway, and, this, you know, and just everything. There's so many cool parallels. Also, the cut on El Sapo's cheek when he got back into his car, that looks like the same kind of cut that Dexter would do, you know, when he was still using his blood slides. That was what really made the tie for me, like, with the whole is Debora a killer thing. Dexter got rid of his blood slides last season, and now, you know, in the whole fight that El Sapo had with Debora, you know, he comes out with this cut, and then she kills him. It's almost like the baton has been passed off in a way, and now there is just this crazy uncertainty. And I'm excited to see Vogel and Debora meet for the first time and really encounter each other. And, you know, what do you guys think of Vogel? What is she really up to? Is she, you know, I'm not so sure that she is the murderer, you know, the brain surgeon murderer, like I kind of postulated last week. I mean, I don't know. I'm open to anything and everything, and things are just going so beautifully and marvelously. I hope whenever they bring Hannah back in that it's going to fit in a good way, you know. But now I have so much hope. Like, seeing just how everything has been so far and how freaking marvelous it's been, I feel like I am at the circus, and it's just like, oh look, there's this here and this here, and they're making everything matter and just stick that much more, like in a way that I never anticipated that they would. And there's just such a sense of Dexter like trying to, you know, come to grips with who he is, not knowing if he wants to be Vogel's version of himself. In fact, he really doesn't fit that, because, you know, every time she's like, well, psychopaths, blah, 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 and Dexter's like, haha, you know, and he's expressing and feeling and longing, and it's in his face and his actions. And it was just so tender. Like when he went and closed Debora's door, I thought that he was going to just leave her asleep, you know, try and leave her be, like he feels like he should. But then he just gently closes the door and she comes to. I was like on the floor, just like, this is not okay for me. I am going to melt right now. Speaking of melting, I'm going to go melt onto Dexter Daily and write my review and organize my thoughts further. So also check out my Twitter, because I always I do live tweeting when I watch the episodes. So if there's anything I missed, it's gonna be in there. Other random thoughts. I love the setting. I love the scenery here. I really, you know, I'm liking the Miami vibes they're trying to set up down in LA. I like Vogel's house. I just like the camera stylings. I like the way they did the flashbacks of Debora's murder, you know. She's looking at the pictures and just that whole kind of manic quality about it. This, like, there's such a breakdown feel that's conveyed in the cinematography. Everything just clicks. Case closed. I'm gonna go and just flail around for a while. I love you guys, and thank you for listening to me be crazy. And I'll be back before you know it next week. The episode is called What's Eating Dexter Morgan. Also, they had some shout outs, so to speak, in this episode to future episode titles, like Make Your Own Music or Make Your Own Kind of Music. I think that song was playing in the background of the scene where the guy was being forced to kill the one dude strapped on the chair. And, you know, there's just all these little things. It's so good. It is a masterpiece. Love it so much. So, alright, I'm gonna peace out for real this time. Love you guys, and as I've said, I'll be back before you know it. Take care, y'all.